Hey y'all, hey, it is sunshine. Happy New Year. I am actually a week late putting this uh, YouTube video out. It is exactly a week after the solar eclipse that happened February of 2026. It was at 28 degrees Aquarius. And I waited because this eclipse was a pretty impactful one that would have events or effects that happen fairly quickly and unexpectedly. So I am definitely curious to see what has transpired over the last week since this eclipse has happened. This eclipse is with Mars and Uranus, so things will happen quickly and probably unexpectedly. I know for me it did. I was like, whoa, here we go. Let's go ahead and prepare for this ride. Let's put on the seatbelt and buckle up. This eclipse is similar to the one in February of 2018. So if you can go back and think about what happened, what transpired in that year for me, what was new that was on the horizon, what was something new that entered into my life. I mean, it could be a person depending on, what house this eclipse was happening in or what planet it was hitting. It could be a job. It could be, a new style or rebranding. It could have been anything, but it was new. It was ushering in new energy. The difference with that eclipse was that it was with Mercury and square Jupiter. So that had more to do with, communication, thinking, possibly overdoing things, jumping headfirst in, just being very optimistic. Jupiter likes to do things in a grand way, and Jupiter can overpromise things if it's not used constructively. Another eclipse that you can think about, if you're old enough, was from February of 1999. Both the eclipse in 2018 and 99 were south node eclipses. So that maybe had to do with the past, connecting with the present, letting go in order to start something new. This eclipse that happened last week is with the north node, but it's not in the sign of Aquarius. So it's not like it's not as potent, but it is still powerful. So the nodes are still in the mutable sign, so it wasn't with the sun and moon. But again, it is still powerful. It is still packing a pretty heavy punch, and it will be over this next year. So what house will this eclipse be in for you? Is it in the first house? It could indicate some change with your appearance or rebranding of some sort. Your entire perspective or presence may shift. The second house could indicate money, or your possessions, even your self-worth. The fourth house could be a change in your family, your home, or even a relocation. And of course, the seventh house is regarding marriage, partnerships, the 10th house, career, etc. But what planet is this eclipse hitting for you? And you want to look at within 5 degrees, even if it's in the next sign. I will look at 5 degrees, and I've seen it even have an effect that is a little larger than 5 degrees. I know for me, it's not 5 degrees hitting one of my planets, but it's within that 10, and it still had a tremendous effect, and things still did transpire. So you want to think about not only the planet that it's hitting, but what house does that planet rule in your chart? And that will give you an indication of, you know, what areas of your life will be impacted. And most of the time, especially if you're using traditional house rulers, there will be three areas in your life that could be impacted. So, for example, if Saturn is being affected, now let me use a personal planet. If Venus is being affected, then it will be the house that Venus is in that will be affected, and then the other two houses that Venus rules, so Libra and Taurus. So those houses will come into play thinking about what may transpire for you over this next year. So I'm going to give you an example. We're going to use a chart so that I can show you how this may work or play out. Let's take a look at Jennifer Aniston's chart. So, for example, she announced her separation from her then husband in, I believe, February of 2018 on the day of the eclipse. On the day of the eclipse. The eclipse was hitting her sun sign, which did not rule her marriage house or anything. The sun was in her fourth house or fifth house, depending on if you use whole sign. It is square Mars, which is the ruler of her seventh house. So I also like to look at squares to the eclipses. If you notice that the moon or Venus, even Mars is square that eclipse, I've seen it over and over again, especially with Venus and the moon. If it's a square, opposition, or conjunction, those signal some pretty important or significant events still happening in your life. I've seen it with especially marriages. If you're getting married, there's usually an eclipse to your Venus or your moon. Like I said, whether it's conjunction, opposition, or square. I have seen it to the sun sign. It's not as common, and I've probably looked at 100 charts just looking at that. There's so many more that I need to look at, but that just seems to be the theme. So the fact that it was squaring her Mars, which is her seventh house ruler, that, obviously was indicating something, was happening. And she announced her split at that time. I think they were separated before that, but I'm sure there's other transits or things that were going on that would have signaled that something was happening. What else is interesting with her is when her and Brad started dating and went public, there was also an eclipse to her sun at that time. I believe that was in 99 or 98, 99. As we all know, this was a major spotlight for her. So the fact that her sun was being hit by, I believe, a solar eclipse at the time, it was shining on her. So that just is an example of how you can interpret an eclipse or what's happening with the eclipse in your chart, just to give you an example. So I would go through your own chart, look at the past, kind of what was happening, look at that, axis of where the eclipse is falling, and you can probably start to put some puzzle pieces together. So there are already a lot of changes happening in 2026 without the eclipse. So this just makes it even more intense. I mean, Saturn and Neptune are now in Aries. Uranus will transit into Gemini, and Jupiter will be in Leo this summer. So this energy is all about action and movement, okay? It is not a quiet type of energy. It's not, let's just sit still and see what happens. It's, we got to get up and move. We got to get up and get things going. So, what have you been working on this past 6 months to a year that will now possibly bloom or require you to take action on whatever you were thinking about or planning? Are you ready to take action on things? Saturn and Neptune are not comfortable in Aries energy, so there may be some resistance and uncomfortability with this, but you must do it anyway. Get out of your comfort zone, do things differently. It's calling you to action. I mean, this energy is just all about taking action, is swiftness, is doing things differently, is being unique. It is definitely a lot of fire and air that is going to be occurring, especially this summer. So, again, brace yourselves. Hopefully, you got your rest with from all the planets that were in uh, earth and water signs last year, because this year is definitely time to hit the ground running. So a solar eclipse means something is being eclipsed, right? This eclipse does mean that the moon is in the way of the sun. The sun is being eclipsed, meaning something is being overshadowed, something is being obscured. But the sun is still shining through. It is still peeking out It is still there, it is still shining light. There will be disruptions in some areas. Disruptions doesn't have to be bad, it just may be something you're not used to, it may be something different. I still, although this is a lot of active energy, and especially Aries is like, let's go, let's move, let's do it. I still want you to be level headed, and not dive headfirst in. Hopefully, you have a plan and now you're just taking action. That's a little bit different than just being impulsive. This will call you to adjust. This will be an intense type of energy. It'll be like the waves in the ocean, but it'll also have moments for you to stop and see the beauty in everything that is happening around you. So take that time when things kind of calm down and look at everything that is transpiring, or has transpired, and look at, wow, I'm here. Think about where you used to be and how far you've come. Take in those moments when you can. There will be another eclipse in August in Leo. So whatever house this eclipse in today, it will be in the opposite house in about 6 months. So pay attention to that axis in your chart, because again, it is going to be focusing this year on that particular area. So, for example, if this eclipse is happening in your first house, in August, it'll be eclipse in your seventh house. If it's happening in your second house, there'll be eclipse in your eighth house, and so forth. So think about that in that area, but also if it's hitting a planet that is in or a point, that is going to be the most potent energy that you are going to experience. So hopefully you're ready for this. I'm excited for this energy. Um, I'm excited for what's on the horizon. Hopefully this will get me back into action and posting a lot more. So happy eclipse season to you all. Love and light.